Hi, Louis.
Hi, Lynn.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Great. Thanks for asking. I'm so thankful to have your time today because right now we are talking about Assembly Bill 585 here in California for the 2021 legislative session. And you happen to be the climate policy consultant with Climate Resolve, who was one of the key parties in the development of this bill. So, to start, I'd love if you can tell us a little bit about your involvement with Climate Resolve and about the bill itself.
Sure. Thanks, Lynn. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been working with Climate Resolve on the issue of extreme heat and this legislation now for 2 years. Um, People don't know that extreme heat kills more people every year than all other climate perils combined. That's why we call it the silent killer. You actually can't really see a heat wave, but you can see the destruction from a wildfire or hurricane. But it is very deadly. And we've been working on this bill because it's a serious threat to the public health and welfare of the citizens of California and the world. And the scientists tell us that the frequency and the intensity of heat waves in California is increasing. There is data to show that the problem is getting worse. So we think this problem has not got enough attention in public policy in California, and that's why we're sponsoring AB 585, which is the Extreme Heat and Community Resilience Program legislation.
Amazing. So, can you tell me a little bit about what this bill would do and why taking that action is so important?
Yeah, in simple terms, the bill operates at two scales. The first is at the state scale. So the bill would require the governor's office of planning and research, which is a special unit in the administration. It would require them, we call them OPR, to coordinate the various activities that are underway in state government right now. The state's approach to extreme heat is fragmented, it's siloed, and it's uncoordinated. So you have maybe 13, 14 different departments have a little bit of doing something around heat, but there's no coordination, there's no overall strategic plan. So that's the first thing, is to get the state business organized around extreme heat. And then the second scale is at the local government scale. And the bill would create a grant program for the Office of Planning and Research to give grants to local government to fund various activities that would implement elements from a comprehensive heat action plans that cities and counties are doing, often developed with community input. So it works at the state scale and the local scale to get more action done on extreme heat.
Gotcha. And, we know that with the effects of climate change, the frequency and the severity of extreme heat events are both increasing. Why is now the right time to take action? Why is 2021 the year that this bill has to happen?
Well, I think a couple of things. One is the heat season is starting earlier every year. And we saw last Labor Day, there were heat waves in California for which the governor issued a declaration of emergency. And as a result of the heat waves, there were rolling blackouts, and over 492,000 Californians were affected by the power outages by these heat waves. And so clearly the state's electricity planning was not sufficient to address extreme heat. And the agencies involved admitted that. They issued a report that said, we're not ready for extreme heat. We need to take action. The other reason it's important to act now is that there's a big surplus in the state budget this year, big surprise surplus. And the governor's proposing to spend over $1 billion on wildfire and over $1 billion on drought, but very little on extreme heat. Because in state government, they don't really have anybody in charge. There is no leader for extreme heat. For wildfire, we have the forestry department, and for drought, we have the water department. But for heat, there is nobody in charge. So there's no advocate in state government. So we want to grab this opportunity with the funding that's being proposed for climate change and make sure that a significant amount is directed to protect people from extreme heat.
Amazing. That really does put the timeliness into perspective. So, can you tell me a little bit now, it's mid-May when we're talking. Can you tell me a little bit about where the bill is now and where it's headed? What is playing in its favor, and what might stand in its way?
Well, we have an overwhelmingly diverse and extensively large coalition of supporters, and it includes faith groups, environmental justice groups, business groups, the American Association of Retired Persons. So we have over 40 supporters on the bill. And we have a group sign-on letter that we can share with you. It's bipartisan. We have a Republican co-author on the bill itself. And let me say it's authored by, the lead legislator is Luz Rivas from Arleta in Southern California, near Woodland Hills, where they had a record 121-degree temperature last summer. So we know that it's local and important to her, as well as statewide and globally.
Great. And, with all of these steps, what are some opportunities for everyday people and, institutions like Sea Solutions to support this bill or otherwise take action towards, extreme heat adaptation and resilience?
Well, Sea Solutions has already signaled its support, and we thank you for that. That's really important. For everyday people, I think that what they need to do, citizens who are concerned about heat and about climate change and extreme events should call their state assembly member and their state senator. The bill will have the same number if it moves when it moves from the assembly to the Senate. That's AB 585. And say they support strong and immediate action on extreme heat. Groups of people that are part of groups like the center, they can call Climate Resolve in Los Angeles and say they like to sign on to support. As I said, we have very broad and strong support. We got a lot of people interested in it, and we have no recorded opposition, which is always a good sign.
That's amazing. And yes, we at Sea Solutions, the staff and the faculty, we're all really proud to support AB 585. So I guess my last question for you is there anything else about this bill or about Climate Resolve's work that you would like to share?
Yeah, a couple of things. One is extreme heat disproportionately affects low-income communities, BIPOC communities, people of color, and other vulnerable communities, just like COVID does. So people that have compromised health status are at greater risk from extreme heat. And often they don't know that. And so we're trying to get the word out. We need help getting awareness out. And we are at Climate Resolve partnering with the Atlantic Council's Resilience Center to create a pilot program to rank and name heat waves like we do with hurricanes. We think as just a public education and communications tool that could really help increase awareness of this threat. So, and then unfortunately, it's a growing threat, as I said earlier. It's only going to get worse. And then finally, another reason for doing it now is there is federal funds coming through the Biden infrastructure plan and resilience plan to build back better. And we say that you cannot build back better if you don't look at the impacts of whatever you're doing on extreme heat, on people's exposure to heat. So the time is right. The support is strong. We urge people to let their voice be known to their assembly member and state legislature. And we thank Sea Solutions for the opportunity to talk about it here today.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. And, I think what I love so much about these conversations is that, in the face of some of these kind of scary threats from climate change, speaking to groups and speaking to folks like you that are working on policies, that are working on solutions, and knowing that, we could be seeing something on the ground in January of 2022 is a huge source of hope and relief and excitement for me personally, and I think for folks generally.
Yeah, and in the meantime, when the summer comes, be aware of heat. Stay hydrated. If you have an air conditioner or a fan can be very effective just by moving air around. And check on your neighbors, especially the elderly and the people that may have compromised health conditions, because checking on neighbors is a important and viable and proven strategy to reduce deaths from extreme heat. So there's a role that people can play in their neighborhood.
Absolutely. Well, Louis, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing. I learned so much in such a short amount of time, which I think is really the goal of these coffee chats, and hopefully, the people listening will feel the same way. So I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Lynn, and I really appreciate your time and interest too. And good luck to you in the center.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.